Winter is coming and so is the toxic air and water for the people of Delhi-NCR. In fact, for the people of Delhi, the arrival of winter isn't just a shift in seasons, it's a warning. A time of the year when the air we breathe turns toxic, the water we drink becomes unsafe, and survival tactics become the second nature. Air purifiers, masks, restricted outdoor activities, all these become the grim routine. In fact, every single year, the story remains the same. The cold doesn't just bring a chill, it also brings the smog, a thick, suffocating blanket of pollution. During this season, hospitals also report a 30 to 40% rise in respiratory cases with asthma, bronchitis, and also other infections becoming the norm. Whether you're young, you're old, or healthy, the toxic air has a major effect on every single person. In fact, if the air pollution doesn't get you, the toxic water definitely will. Take a look at these visuals. Even after 6,800 crore rupees was spent over 5 years to clean the Yamuna, it is still more of a drain than a river. Before I tell you more, here's a ground report from the Yamuna bank.
Now behind me you can see a thick layer of froth that has formed, and even in the banks here you can see the pollution that has accumulated. There is a lot of left over from the pujas that have happened. Remember, Chhat is round the corner, and because of that a lot of devotees come here, and a lot of we see a lot of discarded offerings also splayed all across the bank. Now coming back to the froth, see, this is something that is not descending upon the river, it is coming in from the water itself. Experts tell us the reason for that is because of extreme level of phosphate that gets mixed in when affluents are released from dyeing industries, from our other industrial areas, from all the chemicals that are in the water here. When they pass with the temperature slowing down, this froth appears, and it is absolutely dangerous. And while we report from here, let me also tell you, our nose and all our eyes also, we're seeing extreme irritation just by being here. The fumes enough is suffocating even at this point, and this is going to get worse. What this makes us question, however, is the hundreds of crores of rupees that has been spent on multiple Yamuna rejuvenation and revival programs, as well as the immense workforce that has been deployed, the governments that have come and gone, and Yamuna has been a big issue.
This is not the first time such visuals have arrived. In fact, last year also, and even before that also, the same visuals you have seen from different parts of the Yamuna in the national capital as well. Now the question arises, what has the government done? The extent of this pollution has led the Aam Aadmi Party's own Rajya Sabha member Swati Malewal to question her own party's approach when it comes to cleaning the Yamuna river. She in August said that Yamuna has now converted into a drain, as almost 22 sewages are now disposed inside the Yamuna without getting treated. Now the question arises, what the government has done. Now the Aam Aadmi Party has passed funds. In January 2023, the Aam Aadmi Party came up with the policy of cleaning the Yamuna by December 2023, and also passed a fund of more than 1,000 crore rupees for the Delhi Jal Board. Their aim was to make Yamuna adequate for bathing. I can't tell you about whether it is close to bathing or not, but I am standing here from past 10 minutes and it is very difficult for me to even speak, because it feels like you are standing in front, in between of a pile of rotten eggs.
Like my colleague said there, same season, same visuals, same complaints, and the same excuse by the government. This continues year after year. In fact, tax-paying citizens are now asking the tough questions. Odd-even schemes did not work. A ban on firecrackers seems more like a token measure. And even stubble burning continues despite Supreme Court talking tough. So, where are we going wrong? Why do the authorities wake up late? And when they finally do wake up, why are there only band-aid solutions rather than actually tackling the root problem? We'll be discussing this. Joining us right now on the broadcast, Dr. Vikas Maurya, Senior Director and HOD Pulmonology from the Fortis Hospital in Delhi's Shalimar Bagh, and also Bhavreen Kandhari, who's an activist and member of My Right to Breathe. In fact, before we go to our guest today, Viewers, you can also join us with your views and share your concerns on the numbers flashing on your screens right now. But before we start the discussion about what's going wrong in the national capital, let's go across to my colleague Nikhil, who's also joining us live from the national capital. Nikhil, you've been covering the entire crisis in Delhi, the pollution crisis in Delhi for the past few days now. Help us understand what's the latest step that is being taken by the government. What's the condition right now as far as the air quality is concerned?
Well, Ashish, to begin with, if we talk about the AQI levels in the very first place, it is hovering somewhere around 280. That was the level which has been achieved today. And in fact, in some part of the capital city, that has also reached out at the level of 300. But post the festival of Diwali, that is something which is going to set the all new high. And if you go by the details which has been observed in the last few years, 999 is the AQI levels which is usually observed after the festival of Diwali. So next 2 to 3 months are going to very much crucial in terms of the pollution. And there is not just the air pollution, the water pollution is equally visible right there on the banks of the river Yamuna. We have seen the ground reports as well. But a number of steps have already been taken by the Delhi government, and this is something which is implemented on the ground zero, and sprinkling of water is one such point. Another one is about putting some of the restrictions as far as the construction and the demolition sites are concerned. So there are a couple of elements which are already being excised in the, which are part of the guideline. But apart from it, the stubble burning also continues to take place. There is a debate, and it is a part of controversy as well as to how much, contribution is of stubble burning to pollution overall, but there is no official detail so far on it. But what we can confirm is that UP, for the very first time, they have surpassed the level and the cases of stubble burning with that of the Haryana state. And there is also a word, Ashish, which is coming in all the way from Haryana, wherein it has been informed through the official notification that any of the farmer, if there is any of the farm fire which is noted, that immediately the FIR is going to be filed. Apart from it, it will be made sure that the farmer who is involved in the same, he faces some of the restriction when he goes out into the market to sell his crops. So these are a couple of things which is coming in as far as the latest developments are concerned. But the major point is, what is the impact which is going to be seen after the festival of Diwali? That is something which will talk to us about and tell us more about how much impactful the decision making and the implementation of the plan has been so far in context to the water pollution and the air pollution as well. But the people amid the same, they are all set because they do know that the authorities and the government have always failed them. So this time as well, even the elderly and the children as well, they are equally prepared. But this is something which is equally going to be difficult for all the people across all the age groups in the capital city. Back to you.
All right, Nikhil, like you're rightly pointing out, meetings after meetings, excuses after excuses, and a long list of committees that have been formed. It's the same template that the governments, in fact, the governments go ahead with every single year. And this is something which has become an issue for a very long time now. In fact, let me now welcome back our guests, Dr. Vikas Maurya, Vimlendu Jha, and Bhavreen Kandhari. Bhavreen ji, I'll start with you now. Delhi air quality is in a poor category, with thick foam also building up in Yamuna, as well as we are showing on our screens right now. The air is too toxic to breathe, the water is unsafe to drink, and people of Delhi are now saying, आखिर करे तो करे क्या, जाए तो जाए कहाँ?
Yes, Ashish. So when our government and authorities think that developed city is about flyovers and fancy roads and underpasses, that's not what it is. Developed, good, sustainable city is with clean air, clean water, good public transport. And as I say this, that as much as we can speak about it, we can have meetings, we can have conferences on this, but when it's on the ground, everything is lacking because there is a clear lack of political will. There is no stress on the systemic changes that should have been worked on years ago, because it takes time for those systemic changes to actually be implemented. We are just kind of focusing, we as in the government is just focusing on gadgets and visuals which appeal the voters, and that is the damage that is being caused, because we are losing on our time, we are losing on our children's health, their lungs that will be severely affected, and we will probably be looking at a crippled youth. So starting, it's a vicious circle from whether our pollution boards don't have enough people working, because there are still over 45% vacant posts, to something as simple as understanding that you have to implement the basic laws like solid waste management from 2016, or you are cutting 5 trees an hour, every day in the city, which is polluted, to everything else. This is the reason. This is why we are in this mess, because we just want to show smog towers and smog guns, make headlines like cloud seeding, which have absolutely no effect. You need smog guns. You need them on every day, on every construction site throughout the year, because that is the construction dust, and construction dust is PM10. Right now we are talking about PM 2.5. That is what is the emissions that we are talking about. So even when they are taking all this action for now, this should have been done throughout the year. Construction dust is there throughout the year, and that is a different issue. As far as stubble burning is concerned, again, we are so far still in favorable conditions, because the winds haven't come this side. It is probably about around the 23rd of this month when the northwesterlies will move towards Delhi, and then the stubble, farm fire winds will come towards Delhi. So until now, it is many other issues that should have been worked on throughout the year, throughout the years. And with the absolute, truth and absolute boldness, I think the government should admit it rather than just, putting it on each other, because the blame game is what is, I think, taking us away
Absolutely.
from the
We'll come back
reality.
to the blame game and all the
in
politics
this
that's also being played
real
out in
mess.
this regard. And honestly, this is not exactly what the people of Delhi-NCR are expecting right now. Vimlendu Jha, October started just as people in Delhi were feeling thankful about the fact that they finally don't have to deal with the heat. Now there's another issue knocking on the door, and that's pollution. Not just in the air, but also in water.
Absolutely. So Delhi actually has an environmental apathy or environmental disaster calendar, and it plays out in the same pattern year after year. So, you don't really need to wait for October or November to have air pollution. We know that, just change the year, and next year also, you and I will actually be having the same conversation, because we had the same conversation with Mirror Now last year and last year, and it has been the same thing. In fact, not just us having the same conversation, our Gopal Rais of the world, our ministers of the world actually have been having the same meeting, have been talking about the same 5-point and 10-point and emergency meeting and war room and whatnot all throughout. And therefore, it clearly talks about an absolute dishonesty in governance when you talk about issues of environmental governance. It's just a coincidence, and coincidence because it's visually, as Bhavreen said, visually it's very, very disturbing to see both the smog cover on Delhi and the toxic foam cover on the water body. And imagine two great elements that we are actually talking about of Delhi's environment, which is water and air, and both is in toxic levels, beyond permissible levels. And imagine we're talking about being a developed nation and being the second economy or the third largest economy or whatnot. So somewhere there is mismatch in what our idea of our country is, or idea of cities, country's capital is, and what reality actually we are talking about. So we might have fancy auditoriums built, an airport and everything else built around the city. But if our children are what Bhavreen said, are born stunted, if there is an air quality crisis throughout the year, and we only really pass the buck right now, imagine, a couple of years ago when Aam Aadmi Party was not in power in Punjab, they actually squarely blamed the farmers of Punjab for Delhi's air crisis. Right now, they're not doing that because it's not politically convenient for them. But reality is that Delhi, if we look at current data from Delhi, the 13 hotspots are where the air quality index is almost around 350 to 400, and which clearly means that it's not a pan-Delhi issue. There are local sources of pollution that Delhi has, and that completely gets unnoticed or unanswered or unaddressed. And Delhi government, and very conveniently
Absolutely.
also the central
Vimlendu, this is
government,
not
because
an
it
issue
actually
that's
is a
limited to
very
Delhi alone. It's again something that is a responsibility of the states around Delhi as well. I'll come back to that. But meanwhile, let's also get in Dr. Vikas Maurya on this now. Dr. Vikas Maurya was looking at a data somewhere. It is said that 30 to 40% rise of respiratory cases is what we are looking at in this particular time of the year, every single year. Help us understand, in your experience, what are the sort of cases that you get around this time of the year? Because every time there's winter, there's also pollution, and we're not even talking about Diwali yet. It's still some time to go. Help us understand what are the sort of cases that you get? What do the patients complain a lot about?
Yes, I think since WHO declared that the pollution does causes health effects in 2014, I think every year we are talking about this, because yes, Delhi is affected in a major way because of this increase in the pollution. And what we see every year, whenever the winter starts
In
coming in,
fact,
because
Dr.
of
Vikas, I'll just have to interrupt you. We have a caller joining us right now. Vijay joins us from Delhi. Vijay, please help us understand what are the sort of issues that you're facing, because pollution is a major issue in Delhi.
It
Vijay,
is a major
give
issue.
us a detail about what are the sort of issues that you face.
Yes, the major issue that we face is the polluted air. Imagine this is the festival season and everybody wants to go and shop and do this and do that, and there's no way you can move out of your house. And we are all wearing masks, and yet the pollution is making us suffer. We are getting very bad asthma, terrible, and we just can't breathe. And our children, our small children, are going to school in this condition. How do we make sure that their buses are not taking all the pollution in to make them suffer?
Correct.
What is being done by the government? What is being done by we people have to come out of our houses, and should we shout slogans? Will that help?
Absolutely, Vijayji. I can understand, your concern there. The fact that even young children are affected. Captain Jaspal also joins us right now from Rohtak. Captain Jaspal, please go ahead.
Good evening to you. You see, as you said in your opening remarks, Band-Aid will not help. It requires major surgery. Delhi should be now converted into a union territory. There should be 5 lieutenant governors and a governor. Remove all the illegal immigrants, all encroachments which are in the water bodies, and then only the things will improve. But by the present government, Delhi government will never improve. Whatever resources they have given to their voters, entire budget in freebies. So people of Delhi are in a dilemma. When the government is firmly in power, they should make it a national capital. They should do some major surgery. Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Absolutely, Captain Jaspal, appreciate you sharing your views with us here on Mirror now. Dr. Vikas Maurya, I'll come back to you now. We just heard the citizens talk there. They're really concerned. I mean, I was just telling you about how there's a data that shows that there's a 30 to 40% increase in respiratory problems during this time of the year. And as one of the citizens there pointed out, it's not just the older people, it's also about young children who have to travel all the way to their school that actually face the brunt.
Yeah, I actually, agree with that. It's always we see that around 30 to 40% of increase in the cases, and specifically of the respiratory cases, including recurrent cough, patient having upper respiratory infections, bronchitis, then pneumonias. So these cases, it does increase every year, and also they affect the patient who are at risk, like children and elderly people, and those who have pre-existing lung disease or heart disease, for example, bronchial asthma, COPD, or any other heart disease. They have more exacerbations, more attacks. They require more hospitalization, more emergency visits. And every year we see the same thing because of the winter coming in, the pollutants and the air pollution tends to remain closer to the Earth's surface and where we all breathe. And that's what happens, which leads to more infections and more problems to these people. So we are just starting at the moment with the winter now settling in. And as said by the earlier speakers, that the wind has not started coming in here. So it's just the pollution which was already there. Now the winter setting in, it started affecting the people. Yes, we had started seeing patients coming in with these problems. And now with the increase in the winter and the wind coming in with the more pollutions, the problem is going to get worse. And again, the children and the elderly, those who are at risk, they have to face the brunt. Obviously, yes, we always advise them to use the mask. We always advise them to start having the vaccination so that they can bear the brunt of the infections. But this problem is we see every year, and I think something needs to be done drastically so that
Correct.
we all the at-risk population should at least breathe the air which is free from the pollutants, and they should have healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. In fact, Dr. Vikas Moreji, as one of our callers just told us now, a band-aid is not the solution here. It's a surgery that's required to actually bring the situation under control. Bhavreen ji, I'll come back to you now. Over 6,800 crores have been spent on cleaning the Yamuna, but the river still looks like a drain. I'll ask my team to play out the visuals there. Do you think most of these efforts, especially in Yamuna, are misdirected? Because no matter how many thousand crores you spend, if people continue to dump trash and the industrial untreated waste continues to flow inside, the situation is never going to change.
Absolutely. Ashish, it's as simple as working on the sources of emissions. Now here also it's your illegal industry, that is the chemical factories, etc., which are working. Even today, there is a citizen who's on the ground and he has actually done a huge amount of work. There are a couple of these citizens who are doing fantastic work of actually showing the government and the authorities, which is their job, but they are going on the ground doing their videos and drone videos and showing this huge number of dying units that are functioning in spite of the courts, NGT court telling them to shut them down years ago. So this is the reason when obviously, actually in some way, the government has become the biggest violator, and that is the problem. So what happens is that there is a like the Bhai Bandhu thing happening. So you let the violations continue, and the pollution will increase. And if you remember COVID, all that happened was that all these factories and industries got shut down because of obviously COVID, and everything cleared. We had blue water in the Yamuna, we had a blue sky. So it's as simple as that. I mean, it is a very simple experiment. You don't need cloud seeding and these kind of, such nonsensical ideas or towers to clean up air. You just have to curb the emissions wherever the emissions are. And again, I said, with truth, because they don't want to. Now in the middle of a city, middle of residential colonies, you have an incinerator working 24/7, even when GRAP is brought in. It's apparently called a waste to energy, but it's anything but energy. It's a toxic hell. The residents there in Sukhdev Vihar and Friends Colony, etc., I mean, they bear that brunt every day of their life, whether it's pollution or not pollution. So these are the kind of violations that the government will have to come and take it on, by the, absolutely strictly, and no questions of corruption or no questions of violation, because at some point, I mean, even the health ministry should come in, because it's costing the children, the people, the citizens their lives. And we know that from the AQLI study recently, our children are going to live 12 years lesser than probably our other families who are in other cities and countries. Is this fair? Is this what any parent would want to know this, that our children will live so many, and probably this will increase if this is the way we are going to handle every source of emission. So every source of emission has to be dealt in a way that you have to stop the emissions. The moment you stop the emissions, the problem will go. You don't need 6,400 or 800 crores to clean up. You just have to stop the emissions, which are actually laws. There are already laws. They need to be enforced, and enforced strictly. And if the officers who don't, follow that, they don't implement it, they should be prosecuted. There is no question of letting them go, because it's, after all, they're killing our children and killing our citizens. Then why should they be left? Why shouldn't they be prosecuted and jailed? These things it's too much of mincing of words over the years. Like Vimlendu said, every year we're coming and saying the same thing. We sound like broken records. I said ourselves, But it's so simple. If citizens can go and show drone images and videos of violations happening, why can't the authorities do that themselves? This is not acceptable anymore. And I think citizens have had it. And like Vijayaji just said, I think it's time to, come and, be on the streets and, shout. And if that's the way everybody's going to hear us.
Absolutely. I'll take this point across to Vimlendu Jha here. Mr. Vimlendu Jha, we look at a lot of steps being taken by the government here. For example, odd even scheme or the banning of firecrackers. But do you think the government is scared of going against the real issue? Now, stubble burning, even the Supreme Court has said, is a major issue that's causing pollution in Delhi-NCR. In fact, stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana is a major culprit. Even data shows that. Why aren't we seeing stronger action against violators? Why are those in power so hesitant to crack down on this?
So Ashish, as in, that's where I think with regard to stubble burning and its contribution to Delhi's ambient air quality or region's air quality, that's where Supreme Court is also incorrect. There's no scientific data to actually show that stubble burning actually pollutes, because stubble burning happens only for 15 to 30 days. It does pollute. For these 15 to 30 days, when meteorological conditions are also not favorable, then anything that adds to the existing mess looks, and because the smoke is very visible, it is a big problem. But to squarely, one of the reasons why we haven't been able to solve the problem of air pollution in Delhi-NCR or in the region is because we depend on one stakeholder called farmer and one problem called stubble burning, which actually helps us conveniently ignore the other lifestyle issues or the other big challenges that Delhi has, which is actually the construction demolition dust. Reality is that every scientific study that has actually happened with regard to air pollution in Delhi, of a 365-day study that clearly says that on any given day, when the stubble burning is on in North Indian state, right now, if Delhi's air quality is 400, is not because of stubble burning. Or if the Delhi's air quality was actually bad 215 days or 30 days ago, there was no stubble burning happening. And stubble burning will stop after Diwali. And imagine in December, still the air quality index is going to be 900 plus in very much areas. And therefore, we need to, and our courts of our country, especially the Supreme Court of our country, needs to apply scientific temperament and common sense and not just hide behind something called stubble burning. Stubble burning needs to stop. But where is our vehicle management? Where is our public transport? If Delhi actually needs around 15,000 public transport buses, correct, why are we actually sitting at 5,000 and keep fighting with each other? If construction demolition activities are almost 30 to 35% contributor to Delhi's ambient air quality in terms of pollution, why is construction still on? Why are we not addressing those big issues? Why is waste still burning? So unless and until we have a comprehensive, scientific, collaborative approach and a long-term, medium-term and short-term approach to pollution mitigation, you and I will keep having this conversation and our politicians will have a last laugh, because some politician, there'll be some election happening somewhere or the other. Imagine the elections went by, there'll be election in the next 15, 20 days.
But Vimlendu Ji, usually it is said that all of these issues are because the governments keep changing, there's political instability. But let's talk about Delhi now. It's the same government for a very long time now. And it's the same government that keeps promising that in 5 years we'll do this, in a couple of years we'll do that. But the issue still continues. So it's a big question now. Is this now just an issue that cannot be controlled, or is it just pure incompetence?
It indeed is incompetence and lack of political will. Because if they really wanted to do it, because the problem of Yamuna, by the way, it's not about you and I going and chucking one plastic full of garbage. It's actually these 17 to 19 drains that empty almost 3,500 million liters of wastewater. And where is this water coming from? This is basically DJB's responsibility, Jal Board's responsibility to treat this sewage, which means that sewage treatment plants are not functional or are under capacity or overburdened with this thing. The other is that the minimum flow in the Yamuna is not ensured. So, frost that you see on the surface is only tip of the iceberg, because it almost looks like an iceberg in that sense. The problem is the water under, which is completely toxic. And imagine this is the water that we drink, or at least if we don't drink this, because people downstream of Delhi, they actually drink this water. And this is the situation throughout the year. It's only the monsoon months when the situation improves, and Delhi government claims that it actually has cleaned it. Like very notoriously, just last month, Jasmine Shah of Aam Aadmi Party.
So clearly incompetence is the reason here. I'll get in Dr. Vikas Maurya to just add And another pointer here, as far as the health effects are concerned, because Dr. Vikas Maurya, a lot of people think here that just because they don't have a sore throat, just because they don't have a health issue in the first couple of seasons that they arrive here, especially as far as the winter season is concerned, they think that they're completely, not affected by this. Nothing's going to happen to them. But tell our viewers now, is there a long-term health effect as well? Because right now, someone might not have a sore throat, someone might not have an immediate issue, but is this something that causes a long-term issue as well, as far as the health is concerned?
Oh, yes, definitely. A lot of studies have already shown that the long-term effects of air pollution will be very, very drastic. And it has been shown in many other countries as well, that the it can cause, for example, the lung cancer. Long-term exposure of the air pollutant smoke can lead to the lung cancer. It can lead to, for example, ischemic heart disease or heart attacks, and can also, causes lung, other disease like stroke. And specifically, if I talk of children who are again having exposure to this, the long-term effect after 10 years or 20 years, again on their lung function, on their lung growth will be again, will be much, in a much bad way as compared to the other children who are not growing in such high pollution levels. So these effects, and also one thing which we always forget about, the pregnant females who are getting exposed to this, and the infants who are inside the pregnant womb, and they are also getting exposed to this, the pollution, and also they are now growing in this high pollution levels. So apart from the children, the high risk group like elderly, all these will be affected in a long-term exposure and will have the long-term effects, as I told, like the
Absolutely.
lung
Dr.
cancers and
Dr. Vikas,
pneumonias
I'll
and
come
all.
back to you now. Sunil from Ghaziabad joins us. Sunil, what are the sort of issues that you face? Because this is an issue that not just affects Delhi, it affects Delhi NCR as a whole.
Well, everyone, we are gasping for breath. And the powers that be know precisely what needs to be done. But however, they are busy looking the other way. I'll just take 1 minute. The other day, I came across a demolition, which was being carried out flouting all norms. I stopped my car, looked at the NGT number, called up these people. I said, look, this is the location. This is what is happening. And the response that I got was, go to the nearest police station and lodge an FIR. I said, you think I'm crazy? I mean, it's your job. But they're just not bothered. I mean, cosmetic or even this, that, everyone knows the root cause of what is happening, how it is happening, but we can go blue in the face. They are not going to do anything.
Right, right. Sunilji, appreciate you joining us here, sharing your issues as well, something that you encountered. In fact, Noor Ahmed from Mumbai also joins us. Noor, this is not an issue that's limited to Delhi. We've seen in the recent years as well how the pollution levels in Mumbai have also gone off the chart. Share your views with us. Is there any issue that you faced as far as pollution is concerned?
Well, I feel very pity for what we are doing and what crime we are committing. And the pollution we having problem is basically from the chemical hazardous. And the government is not very, very, very strict regarding this thing issue. And we have to really pay from our nose one day. And it will be too late. It will be too late. It will be too late.
Absolutely. Mr. Noor, appreciate you joining us right now. Vikas Maurya, before we wrap this discussion up, just help us understand, for all our viewers who are watching right now, what are the steps that they can take? Because right now, the air that the people in Delhi-NCR are breathing is toxic. The water is also unsafe. Help us understand what are the basic, if there's any basic tip that you have for the people of Delhi-NCR, something that they can do to ensure that at least from their end, they can stay safe as much as possible.
That is what we always say, that if you can stay at home, you should stay home if the pollution levels are very high. And then using the N95 mask, obviously we'll try to decrease the level of exposure to the children, elderly, and also even to the normal individual. And to take your medications regularly, those who are already taking, for example, asthmatic patients or any other cardiac patients or lung patient or chronic kidney patients or diabetes, hypertensive. Then again, visit your doctor if required for any problem you have, a severe symptoms of, for example, suggestive of infections or pneumonia. But only thing is that to stay at home, it may not be feasible for because you have to go out So yes, you have to use the mask, and plus, I don't know what to say about, because children have to go to school. Yes, something needs to be done, by the authorities to decrease the level of pollution, because these are the only thing which you can recommend to the people, and they can do it. But how long? I mean, because there's a continuous exposure for so many years.
Right.
Now, what will affect to them? I mean, just the time will tell.
Absolutely. Dr. Vikas More, I appreciate you joining us on the broadcast, helping our viewers understand what are the steps that they can take to stay safe. Also, thanking Vimlendu Jha and Bhavreen Kandhari for sharing your views as well over this issue that continues to grip Delhi-NCR year after year. And of course, we'll be discussing this again and again as the issue comes up. All right, viewers, on that note, let's slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere.